The story begins with a frail old man, Seo, on his bed. A young girl enters the room and brings him a bowl of food. She urges the old man to get better so that he can make more soap for them in the future. After the girl leaves, the old man explains that he comes from Earth, where he once lived in a modern and comfortable world. It has now been 50 years since he found himself in this world that appears to give nothing but suffering. Everything started when he and his coworkers were on their way to the company's workshop. He dozed off a bit, and before they knew it, they were suddenly swept up by a landslide. When they woke up, they found themselves in this strange world where there was a giant fox with 3 tails, a 2-headed red snake, and even strange men who had the ability to fly. Even though it seemed they were in a fantasy world, he knew his coworkers had a better future than him. The strange beings who descended from above fell in love with the talents that his coworkers possess and took each of them into the sky, except for him and one other coworker, Director Kim. He and Kim assumed that things would be good for them, but they seemed to be wrong since they have no special abilities. They didn't know so much about the new world they found themselves in, and the only thing they could resort to was manual labor. 6 months after that, Kim reveals that he is tired of living a lowly life. He then used all his money to buy a third-rate martial arts book sold on the streets. Within 3 months, he had mastered the books and he became a full-fledged martial artist. He became a worker for the country, and with this, he learned advanced martial arts that made him better. He then became a powerful warrior and left for the Jianghu. The old man was the only one left behind, wondering if something special could happen to him too. However, nothing happened, and 50 years later, he is on his deathbed. He recounts how he tried his hardest to live. He learned the language and how to even write. He did his best to make a living. He built his own house after buying a small plot of land. He started making some decent money when he began to make soap because in this world, soap was a new thing. However, this also ended when thieves stole his soap recipe and their thugs chased him out of the market. And now, he is just waiting to die after being rejected by this new world that he found himself in. With tears in his eyes, he wondered what he could have done better or what he could have done to be selected among the best. He wishes that he had more powers, and with this, he could have created opportunities for himself. This was his last wish as he died, but just then he opened his eyes to something strange again. Seo looks around to see that he is wearing the same clothes that he wore back on Earth. He is younger, and his coworkers are also present. This is when it dawns on him that he didn't come to this world without powers. He actually has a power, but it is the power of regression. He has gone back to the first day that they fell into the strange world. He remembered that they were in the SUV when they were suddenly swept off by the landslide. Apparently, the landslide also happened after Seo saw a bright light. While he is standing there and thinking of his next move, Section Chief John calls his name. Since he is deep in thought, he fails to quickly respond. Before he knows what is happening, a blow lands on his face. Even the other coworkers are shocked to see this. John screams at Seo for being an idiot because he almost got them killed with his useless driving. John threatens Seo with his job once they return to work. Everything starts coming back to Seo bit by bit. He remembers that John is a managing director at the company where he worked. Seo sees him as a lucky brat who became section chief at the age of 32 by nepotism. One of the coworkers, O, then tries to calm John down, telling him that there was no way Seo could have avoided the landslide. However, John insists that they are in the mess because Seo dozed off while driving. Seo then admits that he dozed off but reminds John that the reason he was tired in the first place was because he handed his own work to him the day before. He had no choice but to stay up late, which is why he was tired. Seo then adds that John was supposed to be in charge of driving them too. While all the memories come back to Seo, John is still ranting about how Seo has gotten them stranded. Seo remembers that he had to apologize to John in his past life. Seo assumed he was wrong, but this only created a sequence in his life. He went on to spend the next 50 years of his life apologizing to people. He kept apologizing in every situation that he found himself. Even when a group of bandits treated him like trash and took his things, he apologized to them. When a martial artist mocked him or when a regional official took his things, all he did was apologize. However, Seo has learned something during those years of enduring the humiliation. Seo then calls Jian, telling him that they are in a delicate situation and it is not the time for them to be pointing fingers. This only gets Jian mad, and he comes after Seo again. He punches him in the face, but this time, Seo is not ready to bow to someone he can easily handle. Seo wastes no time in retaliating, and he lands a heavy punch on Jian's face, shocking the rest of the coworkers. In his past life, he suffered at the hands of bandits, officials, and martial artists. In that time, he gained something, and this is the use of violence. Seo knocks John to the ground and continues pounding his face since he already knows what happens when things like this take place. Just as he predicted, John can no longer take the pain, and he begs Seo for forgiveness. Seo admits that he might not have the talents that others have, But there is one thing he has, and this is his ability to change fate. The rest of the group is forced to call on Seo to stop him from beating John. Seo admits that he overreacted, and he apologizes to them because he is the one who was driving. Kim agrees with Seo that he could have done nothing while driving, but since he already beat John up, he tells him to apologize to John directly. Since Kim is the only person he will be seeing once they all separate, Seo decides to listen to the guy. Kim will become a great martial artist in this world, and Seo believes that supporting him in this life will also help his career. If he is going to do this, he needs to get on Kim's good side as fast as he can. Seo then does as told. He turns to John and stretches his hand to him while apologizing for overreacting. John wants to get mad all over again, but he keeps it in since he doesn't want to be scrutinized. Once everything is calm, Kim suggests that they get out of the woods and look for a village. Seo agrees that this is the logical thing that they can do, but little do they know that common sense doesn't have a place in this world that they have found themselves in. This is a world where the strong prey on the weak. Apparently, the place they are currently in is called the Ascension Path. There is no village, city, or even a nation in close proximity to the area. Seo then suggests that they find a shelter since the sun is going to set soon. Kim agrees with his suggestion and reminds the group of the car. Since there are loads of supplies in the car, he believes that it would be wise for them to find the car. Seo, on the other hand, knows that there is no way that they are going to find the car, but since they are not going to believe him, he decides not to say anything. He wants to leave them to look for the car instead of wasting his time and energy convincing them. Seo suggests that they split into two teams. The first team will try and find the car, while the other team finds shelter. Later that night, the group is seen taking shelter in a cave that Seo found. The group is also confused about how they were in a car, and the next thing, they are in a strange place. Thanks to Seo too, the group has something to munch on, and these are nuts that he found in the area. Kim and the other members of the group are thankful for Seo's help. Kim commends Seo for being a diligent person, but the only person who doesn't interact with them is John. He ignores everyone while lying down as he faces the wall. He obviously does not like the idea that everyone is now praising Seo for being a diligent person that they can rely on. Seo remembers that in his past life, it took them hours to find the cave. Seo then tells the group that he is just lucky, but they urge him to take the compliment since he deserves it. Seo decides to enjoy the moment because this will be the last night he will get the chance to laugh with everyone again like this. The following morning, the rest of the group steps out of the cave to find Seo bowing to a giant white fox. The scary fox talks about how the group has a unique scent it has not seen in its thousands of years. Kim and the others are freaked out at the sight of the giant fox, and they all scream in unison. However, Seo screams at them, telling them to show respect to the Lord of the Forest. The fox talks about how rude humans are, and it reveals its intentions to rip them to pieces. But because Seo showed it respect, the Lord of the Forest decides to forgive them. Even though he has forgiven them, he tells them that they need to pay the price of being in his territory. He promises to let them stay if one of them offers their arm. Seo remembers that in his past life everyone saw the monster and screamed in panic. This angered the fox and it shredded them. Seo is glad that the fox appreciates the show of respect this time around. Since it is not demanding for all of their limbs this time, and their missing limbs can be healed by the cultivators who will appear 2 days later, Seo decides that it is best if he offers his arm. In addition to this, he has already prepared an herb that will reduce the pain. To everyone's shock, Seo offers his arm, and the fox gladly accepts. It tears off Seo's left arm, leaving the guy to scream in severe pain. In pain, he quickly rushes to grab the herb that he had already prepared. Without removing the dirt from the herb, Seo munches on it. The pain is so bad that he sheds tears while eating the herb. The fox reveals that Seo's meat tastes the same as other humans it has eaten. The fox is disappointed because it believed that Seo would taste different because he smelled different. In fact, the fox believes that Seo tastes even worse because of the impurities in his blood. Recovering from the pain and trauma, Seo apologizes to the fox that his offering is not good enough. The fox then tells the group that he is going to allow them to stay for 7 days in his territory, and he adds that they are not going to die due to his divinity. After telling them this, it flies off. Seo's coworkers quickly rush over to him, and they rush him inside. Seo then explains to his coworkers that he met the fox when he left the cave early that morning. Seo lets the group know that they are in the Murim. He claims that the fox told him all of these to avoid suspicion of how he found out. Seo then tells the group that they are going to be safe for the next week since he gave up his arm. Kim is shocked to hear that they only have the grace of 1 week. Kim asks Seo what is going to happen once the week is over. Seo drops the bombshell. He lets them know that they will need to offer something else for the fox. After saying this, Seo sleeps off because he is already tired. When he wakes up, He hears John telling the other coworkers that they should offer Seo's other arm to the fox when it comes back. The others do not agree with John on this, but the question of who is going to give up their arm or leg remains. The others remind John that Seo is pretty useful because he is the one who found the shelter and even the food that they are eating. John then suggests that they learn everything that they can from Seo in a week. John believes that Seo cannot survive for long since he has already lost an arm. He uses this as a basis for why they need to sacrifice Seo. Unknown to them, Seo is already awake, and he is staring at them from a distance. Seo is disappointed that John is planning to chop him off every week and offer him to the fox. He picks up a rock and thinks of killing John for this, but changes his mind. He drops the rock and assumes that all of this is happening because of the fear that they are feeling. He also doesn't want to act rashly so as not to destroy the relationship that he has with Kim. He then hears one of the group telling John to shut the hell up, and this tells Seo that they are all good people. He assumes that all of these are happening because of the confusing situation they have found themselves in. The next day, they ran into the two-headed snake, and unlike the fox, the snake only requested a small amount of blood. This was the same snake that sucked O's blood while he couldn't move because he had already lost his limbs in their past life. Since the snake is requesting just a small amount of blood, O puts his own arm forward. The snake drinks the blood but spills it while revealing that this is the worst human blood it has ever had. So understands the snake's frustration because it had just tasted the blood of a 21st century worker drenched in nicotine and cholesterol. After the snake leaves, Seo turns to John. He tells John to come with him to pick some herbs. John is shocked that Seo didn't hesitate before calling him by his full name. Seo then asks him if he is not hungry, and he humbly answers that he is. Seo assures John that he is going to tell him about the edible fruits and herbs. He moves closer, reminding John that he is going to give his arm to the fox again, and if he dies, there should be someone who knows how to survive in the forest. John assumes that everything is going the way he actually wants it to go, and he thanks Seo for the rare opportunity. Inside him, Seo knows that John will never make use of whatever knowledge he is about to show him because they won't be there again by the time the fox comes back. While gathering the herbs and fruits, Seo uses the opportunity to shout at John. He controls him like a boss controls his junior. Seo doesn't hold back because this was how John treated him when he first joined the company. Later, they run into a root that John assumes is ginseng, but Seo tells him that it is not exactly ginseng. He says it actually resembles ginseng, but it is a yellow bamboo root. Seo assumes that the ginseng is that big because the ascension path is full of energy. Seo knows that the root is not much use to cultivators, but he is aware that it is a precious medicine for martial artists since they use it to increase their chi. Seo plans to keep the roots because it will help Kim later. Seo then tells John to remove his shirt and place the roots in his shirt. After gathering everything, they head back to the shelter. Later that night, John O and another member of the group are suddenly hit with an unexplainable headache. Kim is confused, and he is forced to ask the trio what is wrong. Just then, 3 powerful cultivators appeared in the sky. The trio talks about how glad they are that they found interesting talents in the area. Apparently, the 3 members of the group who were suddenly in pain are the talented ones, while the rest are considered to be mere mortals. Since there are 3 cultivators and there are 3 mortals with talents, they decide to pick the humans one by one to avoid clashing with each other. O is the first to be presented with an offer, and with the immense force he is feeling in his body, he knows that he cannot deny the request. They each present him with several advantages that come with joining their sects, but in the end, the sage-like beings just settled for 1 human each. They notice that Seo has lost his arm, and in their gracious self, they heal him. They are impressed that he has the guts to offer his arm up as a sacrifice for the Lord of the Forest. Once they have taken those that are important to them, the cultivators fly away. As they fly away, the cultivators reveal that they have captured all the beasts and monsters of the Ascension Path. This basically means that the area will be safe from monsters for the next 10 years. Kim screams at the top of his voice, telling the cultivators that they have no idea where to go. Seo remembers something like this happening in his past life. They shouted and begged the cultivators for help, but they just ignored them like they were insects. Even with how bad things look, Seo is glad that they healed his arm. Kim also notices a bunch of traveling lights heading in the same direction. He wonders what is happening in the direction where the lights are headed. That night, something else happened again. One of the women in the group starts to feel unwell. They are worried about her and wonder if there is an herb that they can use. While Kim and the other woman are worrying about this, Seo remains calm because he knows what is to come next. Seo tells the group that they should wait a while longer since someone might appear and heal her. It is not long after he said this that another cultivator appears in the cave. The cultivator is shocked to find mortals on the Ascension Path. Kim is shocked and terrified by the appearance of the new guy, forcing him to ask who he is. The cultivator then reveals that he is the Sea Dragon King, Seo Huayel. The Sea Dragon King reveals that there was a huge storm, and he traced the cause of the storm to the cave. Apparently, he is talking about the struggling lady as the one who caused the storm. The Sea Dragon King is impressed with the amount of power that the girl wields, even with the fact that she doesn't possess a trace of cultivation in her. He is more impressed with the fact that she is not doing it consciously. Seo then cuts in, telling the Dragon King that they are all confused because people like him have appeared earlier. They took away some of their colleagues. The Dragon King laughs when he hears this. He knows that Seo is with the belief that he and other cultivators like him have made arrangements to come and take away his talented colleagues. The Dragon King then decides to enlighten Seo since he is too dull to know what is happening. He explains that Seo and his friends have somewhat found themselves on the ascension path, which is a key gateway that leads to the upper realm. He lets Seo know that in a few months, a dimensional rift called the Ascension Gate will open in the area. This happens once every 1,000 years, and in that time, countless cultivators and spiritual beings would have already begun gathering around the path to ascension so that they can ascend to the upper realm. This is the reason why cultivators like the Dragon King are in the area. Kim then mentions another thing that seems to be confusing to him. He tells the Dragon King that the cultivators took his colleagues so that they could join their sects. He is confused as to how they can join their sects when they plan to ascend to the upper realm. The Dragon King admits that mortals are confused when it comes to matters like this. He explains that cultivators usually have a technique that allows them to shrink large objects and store them in magical tools. He brings out one of the tools as an example of what he is saying. The Dragon King reveals that the cultivators might have stored their entire sect in the tools, hoping to ascend to the upper realm alongside their entire sect when the Ascension Gate opens. He lets Seo and his comrades know that he himself has packed one of his undersea castles in the storage tool that he is holding. Apparently, inside the small storage, too, lie 1,800 dormant dragons. The sea dragon walks up to the unwell lady and comments on the fact that she is going to be great if she joins his sect. Kim rushed towards the Dragon King in an attempt to stop him from taking the lady, but the Dragon King pinned Kim and Seo down with his immense power. He lets them know that the lady will be fine once he gives her his blood and then allows her to join his sect. Before leaving, he gives Seo an important warning. He tells him to stop asking stupid questions because most cultivators would have killed them without hesitation. He lets them know that he is a nice cultivator, which is why he tolerated their insolence up to that point. The Dragon King carries the lady, steps out of the cave, and flies into the sky. The next day, the remaining trio is still looking all confused as to what is happening when the last woman in the group starts feeling a headache too. In the midst of this, she is still worried about Seo. She tells him not to get kidnapped because if he does, she will not be able to survive in the forest all by himself. Unknown to her, Seo is not the one about to be kidnapped. The migraine becomes severe, and the lady falls to the ground. Kim becomes worried when this happens, but seconds later, another scary cultivator appears in front of them. The cultivator is surprised to see mortals on the ascension path, but suddenly realizes why this happened. He explains that whenever the ascension gate is about to open, the surrounding space becomes unstable, which is why Seo and his colleagues were caught in the spatial storm. The scary cultivator leaves the explanation and moves to the real business of why he stopped. He sensed a massive consciousness in the area, which is why he took a pit stop. The cultivator notices that the lady is the energy source he detected. However, Kim stands between the cultivator and the lady to protect her. This only makes the cultivator mad, and he hits Kim with a massive shockwave that sends him flying. Seo catches Kim, and he ends up absorbing all the shock from the hit. Kim thanks him for the help, but notices that his back is all torn apart. The cultivator then walks up to the lady. He plans to take her in, and even though she has no spiritual root, he plans to awaken it with his power. Just then, the cultivator notices that the lady is crying because she doesn't want to leave her colleagues. This gets him mad, and he starts choking Seo and Kim with the intention of killing them. The lady realizes that the cultivator is serious, and she quickly begs him to stop, promising to do whatever it is that he asks. He orders her to forget about her worldly ties, and she agrees to this. The cultivator lets Seo and Kim go, but realizes that the lady will always remain attached if he leaves the two in the area. The cultivator opens a rift to throw Seo and Kim to the nearest human nation. He reveals that they are going to land in a random nation that even he doesn't know. The rift sucks in Seo and Kim, but Seo manages to grab the herbs before he is sucked into the rift. Everything turns black, and when the two finally open their eyes, they find themselves in a dirty alley. The two stepped out, leaving the residents to look at them disgustingly. After taking a good look at where they are, Seo figures out that they are in the capital of Yanguo, Seokyeong City. The two sit down to think about their misfortunes. Kim is glad that they were not taken by the cultivators, but Seo is not really thrilled with this. He remembers that in his past life, he was nothing but a powerless herb gatherer. Since they can't stay in the alley forever, Seo suggests that they leave. As they walk through the street, Kim comments on the fact that the language spoken in this strange world sounds like Chinese. In addition, he wonders why the people are whispering while also staring at them. Seo then tells Kim that the people are mocking them because their clothes are different. Kim is shocked, and Seo urges Kim to relax since he understands a bit of Chinese. In reality, Seo is lying to Kim. The language the people are speaking might resemble Chinese, but it is definitely not Chinese. In his past life, Seo had to endure mockery from beggars for 2 months just to learn the basics of the language. Now that he is back, he is glad that there is no need for that again. He tells Kim that their next plan is to get new clothes. Kim is worried because their currency might be rejected. However, Seo already planned ahead, which is why he took the herbs with him. They head to an herb shop, and Seo presents the shop owner with one of the herb roots. The shop owner is immediately engrossed with the herb as he talks about how precious it is. He generously offers to buy the herb for 15 silver coins. Seo is shocked when he hears this because he never had that much money in his past life. Seo agrees to the fee, and the old shop owner runs over to grab the money. After getting the money, Seo buys a house that he and Kim will be living in. Kim is shocked when he sees the beautiful house that Seo bought. In addition to this, Seo assures him that he will teach him the language that is spoken in that world. Unknown to Kim, they are in a bit of a bind. After buying the house and getting their identity plaques, they only have 1 silver coin left. Things are a bit expensive because they are in the capital. Since they are in a new environment, Kim decides to start calling Seo by his name, and he also thanks him for everything so far. Later on, Seo tells Kim that they are going to run out of money once they run out of herbs to sell. He wants them to think of a new way to raise money. Kim then suggests that they start a business with whatever money they get from the rest of the herbs. Seo thinks this is a good idea since Kim has skills when it comes to thriving in business. However, he is not ready to settle for less. Since he has been given another chance, he wants to dream bigger. He remembers that Kim is a martial arts genius who became one of the most powerful martial artists in the Jianghu. Seo wants Kim to learn the advanced martial arts from the start, and by this, he should be able to shift forward the birth of the greatest swordsman by at least 30 years. With this, Seo knows he is going to benefit a whole lot. Seo then opens Kim's eyes to the fact that they are in a world where martial arts is being practiced. SEO suggests that they learn self-defense first because even if they open a business, thugs might show up one day and take over everything that they have. Kim's face lights up in excitement when he hears this, and this is the exact reaction Seo is expecting because Kim is a Mirim novel nerd. Kim wants to know where they can learn martial arts. Seo explains that in the city, there are 7 famous sects. There is the demon-slaying sect, the self-binding temple, the suppressing birdhouse, and the 7 mysteries sect on the orthodox side. However, the Wolfang Gang, the Dark Knight Association, and the Dragon Fighting Stronghold are considered unorthodox. They are referred to as the 4 stars and the 3 demons. The demon-slaying sect mainly learns sword and other blade techniques. The self-binding temple is a Buddhist sect, while the suppressing birdhouse focuses on gathering intel. While much is known about the orthodox sects, the same cannot be said about the unorthodox sects. They are only known to do lots of illegal things, and they are also proficient in sorcery. Seo then asks Kim which sect he likes out of all, and he replies that he prefers the demon-slaying sect. Kim has always had the belief that a proper martial artist should wield a sword. Kim then asks Seo how he knew about all of these. As expected, Seo lies that he had earlier eavesdropped on the conversation between 2 martial artists. 3 months after their conversation, they head to the demon-slaying sect to enroll Kim. The representative they meet is interested in the money they brought, but at the same time, he is doubtful that Kim has what it takes to become a martial artist because he is already old. Seo manages to convince the rep to take them to someone with higher authority. They are taken to the sect leader, who immediately becomes interested once he sees the money they have brought. He tells them that they are free to join as an external disciple. However, he lets them know that he is only going to accept one of them. Kim gets mad because they are basically giving out all the money they got from selling the roots. He wants to challenge this, but Seo quickly cuts in, telling the sect leader that he is grateful for the opportunity. He tells the sect leader that his brother, Kim, will be the one to enroll. After the sect leader leaves, Kim mentions his disappointment in the development. Seo then tells the man not to worry about it, reminding him that he has never been good at sports. Seo assures Kim that he will set up a business with the remaining money that they have, and with this, he can support Kim while he is learning. Kim is impressed by this, and he assures Seo that he is going to try his best. He is skeptical about his abilities, but Seo urges him to believe in himself. With this, Kim enrolls in the school, and 7 months later, Kim wins the sect's competition. This immediately sparks an uproar within the sect because Kim is basically an outsider who has come to outshine them. Apparently, there are different stages to climb when aiming to be a martial artist, but people with talents often blitz through the stages with little to no stress. The demonic slaying sect is a great sect in the city, and the idea of an outsider showing up to defeat the direct disciples of the great sect doesn't sit well with them. Within 7 months of learning martial arts, Kim has become a first-rate warrior. He had completely mastered the dragon saber technique of the demon-slaying sect. The sect leader doesn't like the idea of an outsider coming to beat them. He is disgusted that Kim reached a top level in under a year. He wonders what this will mean to the other people who are not members of the great sect. Trying to get everything under control, he immediately demands that they arrest Kim. Kim and Seo are then put under house arrest by the sect. The sect is charging Kim with allegations of being a spy for another sect. Seo is surprised that the sect even arrested him when he didn't even know anything about martial arts. While Seo is sitting in the room thinking of the next thing to do, Kim is practicing his martial arts. Seo then asks Kim if he is worried because things like this end up badly. The sect either destroys Kim's chi core or even cuts off the chi flow in the body. Kim agrees that this might be a problem, but he tells Seo that he is approaching the next barrier, and if he manages to cross it, he will get to the next stage. Seo is shocked to hear this, and he immediately compares Kim to a monster. It hasn't been long since he became a first-rate martial artist, and he is already getting close to the next level. Apparently, the next stage after the first rate is Martial Peak. This is the level where most sect leaders end up. Those who have reached this level are considered to be great masters, and there are only about 1,000 of them in the whole nation. And to be safe, the martial arts world doesn't reveal any stages after the peak level, which means all martial artists only aim to reach the peak level. Seo finally realizes that his assumptions were totally wrong. With the way things are going, he believes that the birth of the greatest swordsman will be shifted forward by 40 years and not 30 as he previously predicted. 7 days later, the two are still under house arrest. But something incredible happens. Kim reaches the peak level while they are under house arrest. Even Seo is shocked to see this, and Kim reveals that since he has reached the peak level, he is no longer scared of the sect leader. Seo commends Kim for having such great talent, and Kim admits that he never thought he possessed such impressive talent in the first place. Just then, orders come from the sect leader that Kim's key core should be destroyed. The sect is maintaining the allegations that Seo and Kim are spies. In no time, the two are surrounded by the sect warriors. Seo tries to have a civilized conversation with them, but they punch him in the head. Kim swings into action once the warriors make an attempt to restrain him. Before they can react, he delivers precise cuts to their wrists while telling them that he is not a spy. The sect deputy leader tries to act all tough, but Kim treats him the same way as the others. The warriors are forced to run away from the room with the realization that Kim has hit the peak level in martial arts. Once they are gone, Kim tells Seo that he plans to visit other sects to train. He wants to know what his plans are, and Seo assures him that he is going to follow him. Seo suggests that they go to the unorthodox sect, the dragon-fighting stronghold. Kim agrees to this, and he tells Seo to meet him there. Kim wants to stay back and take care of the demon-slaying sect so that they won't come after them. Later that day, Seo gets to the location where Kim suggested that they meet, and he is already there before him. Kim's blade is soaked in blood, revealing that he had taken care of any threat that the demon-slaying sect might pose. Seo realizes that this world has turned them into violent creatures, and he wishes that they could go back to their boring everyday life on Earth. Since this is no longer possible, Seo just wants them to do their best to survive. Later on, Kim took over the dragon-fighting stronghold. 2 years after this, he toured each region of Yanguo to take down several sects. In the 3rd year, he had already defeated every sect in the region. He was given the title of the greatest martial artist under the heavens. Kim then used his fame to unite the sects, thus forming the Martial Alliance. 7 years after this, Kim and Seo are practically brothers. Because of how close they are, he created a martial art specifically for Seo. He named the technique the Severing Mountain Sword, hoping that Seo would get the hang of it and would use the techniques in the book to reach martial peak. However, things didn't go as planned, because even though Seo was training under Kim himself, he barely made it to 3rd rate after an entire year, which shows how poor his talent really is. Seo finally concludes that his talent is in medicine, and Kim agrees with him on this. 10 years later, Seo saw Kim do something truly remarkable. This is something that is considered a myth to many. Kim used a special martial arts technique called skeletal restructuring to make himself look younger, leaving Seo utterly shocked. Seo mentions that Kim now looks younger than him, and he agrees with this. He also agrees on the fact that people might become interested in how he came about the skeletal restructuring. Kim then reveals his plan to hand over the Martial Alliance to a successor. Kim is in a dilemma over this, since he hasn't found a single person who is well-versed in martial arts. Seo is not surprised by this since Kim is a different breed when it comes to the world of martial arts. Seo tells Kim that no one can be compared to him. 15 years after this, Seo is already in his mid-60s. It has already been 35 years since he started his journey. Apparently, after a year of discovering the skeletal restructuring process, Kim passed down his position of alliance leader to his successor and left. Since then, Seo has not seen him. Seo wanted to retire back then, but to keep order in the alliance, he had no choice but to stay as the strategist. Now that he is retired, he is disappointed that Kim didn't attend his retirement ceremony. Seo is now living in a large manor that he bought with his retirement funds. He is all alone in the big house with no one to keep him company. He is walking around the house when Kim suddenly appears out of nowhere. He is still as young as ever. Seo questions Kim on why he didn't attend his retirement ceremony. Kim lies on the ground while talking about his proficiency in martial arts. Kim then reveals that he fought a cultivator. Apparently, the cultivators don't reveal themselves easily, but they are always in the shadows of the royal palace. They are the ones controlling things from behind the curtain. The moment the alliance started to gain attention, the cultivators also shifted their focus to the alliance. Kim didn't like the cultivators in his business, but because he didn't want to have an issue with the entire nation, he played along. After he got tired of playing along, he gave up his position as the alliance leader. He had plans to duel the cultivators one by one, and this was when he started moving around the kingdom by himself. Kim explains to Seo that he managed to find a bunch of cultivators, but they all ignored him, saying a duel against mortals is not worth their time. However, Kim was able to fight a cultivator some years back. Seo then asks him if he won, and he says yes. Seo is glad to hear this, but Kim is not particularly impressed. He reveals that he put his life on the line to fight the cultivator who reached the chi building stage. He only managed to make a small cut on the cultivator's fingertip. Apparently, the cultivator told Kim that he will consider the duel a loss if Kim can get a single scratch on him. This was how Kim was able to win because he managed to land a hit, not because he took down the cultivator. Seo then asks him if the cultivator he fought is one of the 10 strongest, and he says no. To put it into context, the cultivator that he fought is one of the weakest. This shocks Seo as he never thought the cultivators could possess such ridiculous strength that even Kim will struggle against them. Kim is considered the pinnacle of martial arts with his incredible talent, but he is shocked that such a powerful fellow barely nipped the finger of a weak cultivator. Kim explains to Seo that they have no chance against cultivators because they are nothing more than living natural disasters. Kim then reveals that he fought the cultivator again and managed to cut off his hand. Seo assumes that Kim's martial arts have surpassed the cultivator's own, but Kim corrects him on this. He lets him know that the cultivator grew his hand back by placing a paper talisman on the hand. Kim admits that he might be at the limit of his martial arts. He then lets Seo know that he is there to say goodbye to him. The cultivator he fought is willing to accept Kim into his sect, and Kim has accepted the offer. He plans to start from the bottom once he reaches the sect and hopefully work his way up. Seo then mentions that he is going to need a spiritual root to become a cultivator. Kim then explains to him that mortals like him can gain the trait that cultivators are born with by using their entire lives to manifest the basic quality. Kim then cuts open a portal with his sword. He brings out a book that he hands over to Seo. He tells him that the book is his last gift to him. After giving Seo the book, Kim disappears into the portal, leaving his old friend behind. The book he gave Seo is the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. After this, time went by so fast, and before Seo knew it, he was back on his deathbed. Everything seemed like his previous life, only that this time, he is in a more comfortable house and bed. Seo tried everything he could just because he didn't want to experience the same thing he did in his previous life. He even studied the book Kim gave him, but none of this helped him. Kim realizes that he was so lost in trying to be better that he didn't even think of marriage. He only managed to garner wealth and fame that the mortal world could offer, but in the end, none of it was enough to save him. Seo feels empty inside of him, and finally, he dies. Surprisingly, Seo opens his eyes to find himself in the ascension path. He realizes that the regression power that he has is not a one-time thing. Just as expected, his co-worker Jun comes charging at him, but he easily dodges his attacks. Seo also notices that his body is brimming with energy. While dodging Jun's punches, Seo goes over everything that has happened to him so far. He wonders if the power to regress is actually a good thing, but finally comes to the conclusion that it is not something to celebrate. He sees it as nothing spectacular but a curse that denies him the meaning of life. Seo realizes that he is going to be caught in a repeated cycle if this continues for so long. He is just going to suffer forever while living a new life every single time he regresses. He continues having an internal monologue on how he won't get the chance to meet the people from his past life. Even Kim and the others who are standing in front of him have totally different personalities from the people he knows. John is getting exhausted already, and Seo has not even touched him. Seo finally opens his mouth to tell Jeon that getting angry will not do them any good. He reminds John that he warned him that he was tired before he forced him to drive the car. He then adds that it is hard for him to even dodge a landslide on a tiny road. He urges John to stop pointing fingers and focus on the solution to their problem. With a commanding tone, Seo turns to Kim and tells him that he is going to look for shelter. He urges the others to find the car, which he obviously knows they are not going to find. Seo lets them know that he is going to light a fire when the sun sets and urges them to come to the fire. Seo is left with the question of whether he should make a bond with his colleagues since they are all going to separate in the end. Lying down in the cave that night, Seo thinks about the infinite regression ability that he has and why he needs to remove it. Since he is always coming back to the ascension path, he wonders if the power will be removed if he somehow returns to Earth. But the question of how he is going to return home remains unanswered. He remembers one of the cultivators talking about the spatial storm that happens when the ascension gate is about to open. He wonders if he can return to his world the same way he fell into the ascension path. Seo then comes to the bitter realization that he even needs to get stronger if he is ever going to change his fate. He plans to become a cultivator just like Kim. He plans to know more about the ascension gate once he gains the longevity that cultivators usually have. With this, Seo makes up his mind to become a cultivator and go to the ascension gate. Seo begins his journey by consuming the herbs that help to awaken his chi cores. Following this, he begins to meditate to break through his blocked chi passageways. After this, he carves a stick into a sword for practice. He is really serious about his plan to become a cultivator, and he is not ready to wait till they leave the ascension path. He begins swinging his sword around since he has the basic knowledge on how to handle a sword. After all, he was an average second-rate martial artist in his previous life. Using the skills he learned in his previous life, he is able to swing the stick strongly enough to cut a big chunk of a tree. Seo has all the techniques in his head, and all he needs is the time to perfect them. Just then, Kim announces his presence and expresses his shock at what he just witnessed. He asks Seo what kind of strength he has in him to have slashed a tree with a wooden sword. Since Seo needs Kim's help to become a cultivator, he uses the opportunity to get his interest. Kim is immediately interested in martial arts the moment Seo mentions it. As expected, the fox soon arrives to demand its tribute. Just as expected, Seo gave his arm to the fox, and with this, his second regression goes by. He managed to learn under Kim during his second regression, but could only make it to a first-rate martial art. He is now back on the ascension path for his third regression, and as usual, the fox is back to demand a sacrifice. Seo steps up and rips off his arm by himself to give to the fox. This shocks Kim and his other colleagues, but unknown to them, Seo is driven by an unparalleled determination. He is determined to give his arm to the fox even if it takes him 1,000 times to do that. However, he aims to take down the fox once he is strong enough to do so. After eating his arm, the fox leaves as usual. Seo then leaves his colleagues to train in the woods. The cultivators also showed up to take his colleagues away, and as always, they healed his arm. Seo continued practicing in the woods and only stopped on the 4th day when the Sea Dragon King arrived. With respect, he asked the Dragon King a question. He indirectly asks the Dragon King how he plans to awaken his colleague's spiritual root. The Dragon King reveals that the lady will awaken to her talents once she accepts his blood. Seo then asks the Dragon King to give him the same opportunity as the lady because he might also have some hidden talents that just need awakening. However, the Dragon King only flexes his power on Seo, telling him not to make demands of cultivators like him. As usual, he forgives Seo for his insolence, but lets him know that other cultivators might not be so kind. Later on, the scary old cultivator also appears to take their last colleague. Seo then uses the same trick on the cultivator. He bows his head while asking the cultivator how he plans to turn the lady into his disciple since she is just a mortal without a spiritual root. The cultivator then reveals a priceless pill that awakens the spiritual senses in mortals. He lets Seo know that a mere mortal can become a cultivator if they consume the pill. With this, Seo is able to figure out that there are several ways to become a cultivator. As it always happens, the cultivator sends Seo and Kim to a random nation. This time, they find themselves in the southwest of Yanguo. He recounts how his previous life was spent, like the second one, where he was training under Kim while touring the region with him. Kim is knocked out, but Seo wakes him up. He then takes him to the nearest city to explain things to him. Kim was initially confused, but later accepted the reality of things. They sold the herbs to buy a small house, and after this, Seo taught Kim the language of the New World. Seo also teaches Kim the martial arts technique that Kim himself created in his second life. Within 3 months of learning martial arts, Kim reached the level of 3 flowers, while Seo had spent 2 lifetimes just to become a first-rate martial artist. With the situation of things, Seo comes to the realization that Kim is not the same person he considered his brother in their past lives. When it comes to the mental aspect of their lives, Kim is several years younger than Seo. Seo then decides not to stay with him in this life. Kim is shocked when Seo informs him that he is going to go his separate ways. However, Seo hands over the book that Kim wrote in his past life. One of the reasons why Seo is also separating from Kim is how things turned out in his past lives. In his first regression, Kim became strong, but he became lost when he fought the cultivators and lost. This was almost the same thing that happened during the second regression. He became the pinnacle of martial arts but still couldn't surpass stronger cultivators, and because of this, he gave up. He left martial arts and disappeared to become a cultivator. Seo knows that everything will happen again in this life, and he doesn't want to witness Kim fall into despair again after he loses to the cultivators. Seo is heartbroken with his decision to leave Kim behind, but he has no choice. Seo lies to Kim that he wants to tour the regions on his own and improve his skills. Kim is worried about how to go about life, but Seo assures him that his martial arts skills are enough to get him ahead. However, Kim is worried that he is about to part ways with the only person he knows from his homeland. Because of this, Seo makes a deal with Kim. They will always return to the house to meet every 2 years in a bid to check on each other. Kim agrees to this, and Seo finally leaves. Seo then heads to the Hall of 8 Respects. He humbly requests a duel, and he shows how proficient he is by cutting the rep's spear with his sword. This catches the sect's attention, and it tells them that Seo is not a nobody. Seo is driven by the passion to become stronger, and he plans to do whatever it takes to reach his goal. Seo is invited to meet the sect leader. The sect leader is already waiting for him in the ring, and he comments on Seo's impressive chi. Seo asks the sect leader to teach him his ways, and he gladly accepts. The sect leader brings out his weapon, the nunchucks, ready to make the first move. Using the range of his weapon to his advantage, he almost pierces Seo's eyes, but Seo manages to react to the attack just in time. He deflects the weapon, shocking the disciples who are watching the fight unfold. The sect leader is impressed that Seo deflected his sword, and he mentions that Seo has become one with the sword. The sect leader figures out that Seo is at the late stage of a first-rate martial artist. Seo returns the compliment, telling the sect leader that he has learned a lot from his first move. The sect leader considers Seo a genius for being at the same level as him at his young age. However, Seo doesn't take this as a compliment, because while others are reaching first-rate in a short time, it has taken him 2 lifetimes of hard work to get there. In fact, Seo sees himself as nothing but a talented fool. At the same time, he is glad that he has the power of regression, because this gives him an opportunity to make up for his lack of talent. Seo then tells the sect master that he is about to get serious, and the sect master returns the energy. Seo restarts the attack by using the first form of his technique, the mountain-severing sword. The sect leader dodges this, but Seo gives him no rest. He immediately follows suit with the second form of his technique. As if this is not enough, Seo continues with the third form, and at this point he is already pushing the sect leader into a corner. The sect leader cannot believe that he has to go against such monstrous sword arts. The sect leader is trying his best to break through the subsequent attacks from Seo, but he can't. Before he knows it, Seo has reached the 7th form, and the sect leader barely dodges this but still ends up with a cut to the face. The disciples are blown away by what they are watching. They cannot believe that their sect leader is getting beaten into a corner while the opponent gets even stronger. In no time, Seo has reached his 11th form, and this makes life harder for the sect leader. After playing around with the sect leader, Seo decides that it is time to finish things up with his 12th form attack. Seo leaps into the air and launches an aerial attack that leaves the sect leader perplexed. Seo lands a hit that destroys his weapon, forcing him to admit defeat. After the fight, Seo thanks the sect leader for the opportunity. Seo walks away from the sect with his head up high, and he is glad that he didn't receive any backlash. This is because the Hall of 8 Respects is an orthodox sect that is well known for upholding the moral code. Since he has seen what the orthodox sects are capable of, he wants to check out one of the unorthodox sects. He plans to reach the martial peak by touring the region in his current life. After his duel at the 8th Hall of Respect, he visited 4 more medium-sized sects in the city. Among the 4 sects, he lost to 2, the Unryu sect and the Huayong sect, and for the 2 other sects, Geju and Yuguo, he was victorious. And now he has found his way to an unorthodox sect, the Hojiang sect. He takes down the sect representative, while the sect leader watches. The sect leader laughs and mentions that he has heard about Seo, the young martial artist going around to challenge duels. The sect leader is impressed with Seo's skill, and Seo returns the compliment by showing his respect. However, the sect leader is not about to let Seo go. He tells him that he has to face off against 10 of the sect's elders all at once. Seo is shocked to see this, and it dawns on him that this is how the unorthodox sects do their thing. He thought the duel ended with his victory, as he had never heard of consecutive duels in the past. To make it even worse, the sect wants him to fight 10 capable martial artists all at once. Seo threatens to tell everyone of the sect's evil way of doing things, but the sect leader calmly tells Seo that he won't get the chance because he is going to die. They are only going to lie that he got scratched and it became infected, which led to his death. The sect leader sits on his throne like a proper villain while Seo is surrounded by stern-looking men armed with swords to take him out. Seo realizes that the sect is worse than he gave them credit for. Seo has unfortunately found himself in a life-or-death situation because of his quest to become stronger. The sect plans to kill him to keep their reputation intact. Seo doesn't mind getting attacked because this is why he came to challenge them in the first place. He boldly tells them that he accepts the duel, and in no time, the elders rush at Seo all at once. Meanwhile, in town, people are talking about how stupid Seo is. They mock him for challenging one of the unorthodox sects, which is basically a death sentence. They believe that his overconfidence has unfortunately led to his demise. Apparently, the Hojang sect is just a name to cover up the fact that the disciples are all thugs. They already write Seo, but suddenly someone walks into the restaurant and it turns out to be Seo. Everyone's attention immediately shifts to Seo, who is drenched in blood. He asks the waiter for a bowl of noodles, and the waiter acknowledges his order before inviting him into the room. All those who have been talking trash about him immediately go quiet with Seo's presence in the room. Seo sits down to wait for his noodles, and while waiting, he recounts his encounter with the Hojang sect. He was greatly outnumbered, and to make things worse, their weapons were laced with poison. Seo is glad that he has already learned medicine to the highest level during his time as the Alliance strategist. Seo ate a curing pill and stimulant before taking on the fight, and this is what helped him to survive the poisoned wounds. He manages to cut down all those who are attacking him, and after he is done, the sect leader orders everyone in the vicinity to take down Seo no matter the cost. Seo is attacked with spears while they use deadly formations against him. However, Seo had no choice but to fight like an animal just so he could survive. He managed to take down everyone who dared come against him, and after he was done, he turned his attention to the sect leader and finished him off. Those who survived the attack had their tendons cut off by Seo to cripple them for life. He doesn't want them to come after him in the future. After Seo finishes his bowl of noodles, he remembers that he is still active because of the high amount of stimulants that he consumed. Since he won't be able to sleep for the next couple of days, he decides that challenging an orthodox sect is the next thing on his plan. He walks out of the restaurant with everyone staring at him in horror. This event made his name spread far and wide. Not long after this, Seo was given a title, the Infinite Fighting Spirit. Since he lacks talent, he hopes to continue fighting since the martial peak seems to be the highest bar he can reach. Seo fights several sects without regard for his safety. He has basically turned into a madman in an attempt to break the giant barrier holding him back. Seo believes that this is the only way for a talentless man like him to move forward. Seo continued engaging in duels, whether with the orthodox or the unorthodox sect. 5 years later, Seo has improved so much that his chi is now like a mountain. After several battles, he finally reached the stage where he needed to cross to become a martial peak. The process is hard on him, but he doesn't care since this is the only way forward. He took on Kim to test out how far he has gone, but he is nothing when compared to how strong Kim is. His sword was destroyed in just a single strike from Kim, and Kim tells Seo that he needs to get even stronger. Seo is impressed as ever, and he commends Kim's strength. Kim is looking younger because of his skeletal restructuring technique, while Seo is all rough after years of severe training and battles. He wonders what he needs to do to leave the rank of a first-rate martial artist. At this point, he comes to the realization that talent really plays a huge role in everything that he needs to do. Kim then tells Seo about his conclusion. Kim has battled people far and wide, and with everything he has seen, he now knows that no one can withstand a single strike of his. Because of this, Kim is planning to create a sect, and he offers Seo a position in the sect. However, Seo refuses the offer, telling Kim that he is fine as he is. Seo knows that accepting the offer only means he is going to work himself to death as the Alliance's vice leader. Since he is aiming to reach the martial peak, Seo considers every second important to him. Kim then tries to convince Seo by joining because it will be hard for them to see eye to eye once he gets busy. He even offers to train Seo in private sessions, but Seo lets Kim know that no matter how tempting the offer is, he is not accepting it. Seo has gotten enough teachings from Kim in his past lives, and he doesn't think he needs any other lessons. Kim is disappointed and sad, but he has no choice but to respect Seo's wishes. Seo wants to take on as many combats as he can since Kim once told him that combat and real-life experience are what can push him to the next stage. In this current life, he has decided to watch Kim from afar while he tries to improve his own skills. Seo continues his journey as a martial artist, and before he knows it, another 20 years have passed. He is now old, and he hasn't reached the level he wants. Seo comes to the bitter realization that his talent is one forsaken by the heavens. He remains stagnant no matter what he does, while Kim keeps getting stronger and younger. Seo explains to Kim that his understanding of the sword energy exceeds that of other first-rate martial arts, but somehow he is still unable to last more than 3 exchanges against a peak-level martial artist like Kim. Even Kim is surprised as to why this is happening to Seo. Seo has practiced really hard, and with his fighting experience, Kim expects someone like him to be able to surpass the barriers in front of him. Seo smiles, believing that this is the extent of his talent, a talent forsaken by the heavens. Seo has gotten bad because he can only maintain his sword energy for half a day. He wonders if he is going to find a path for himself if he manages to maintain the sword energy for an entire day. Kim then gives Seo another book of techniques that he just wrote. He tells Seo that this is the knowledge that he has gained from fighting against cultivators. Kim managed to gather all the knowledge he could by stalling his fight with the cultivator. Seo is surprised at how big the book is, but he understands that cultivators are something else, which is why Kim got so much information from fighting them. Seo thanks Kim for the help and assures him that he is going to preserve the knowledge for the generations to come. After this, Kim leaves to continue his battle against the cultivators. Before leaving, he gives Seo a secret hint. He tells him to try and take in every single piece of spatial information into his mind at all times. Seo is shocked to hear this, as he would have to stay aware of his surroundings at all times. Seo wonders if he can pull something of such magnitude off because maintaining his sword energy for just a day is already taking a big toll on him. He wants to doubt Kim's advice, but realizes that Kim is the strongest martial artist ever, and he wouldn't have told him to do something of importance without a good reason. Seo takes Kim's advice, and from that moment forward, he began to keep aware of every single piece of information that his eyes gave him. He also tried to remember the spatial position of every object in his vicinity. He continued doing this for 5 years, and in the end he began to maintain sword energy and spatial tracking at the same time. However, this usually takes a huge toll on him, causing him to become dizzy. In addition to this, Seo starts tracking audible information as well, but he wonders if he can fight in his dizzy state. There are no more sects for him to fight. He has fought all the sects in the region in the past 30 years, leaving him with no sect to take on. Because of this, he has resorted to capturing bandits and collecting their bounties. He decided that fighting enemies who have no rules would help test his combat ability. Even though he is dizzy, he doesn't mind taking on scary bandits. This is a scary path that he has decided that he needs to tread. 15 years after this, Seo has gotten older. Kim is also still alive, but the battle scars from fighting the cultivators are clearly all over his body. It has now been 45 years since Seo regressed, and he has reached a stage where he is proficient at processing and remembering. He is able to do this with his sight, hearing, taste, touch, and even smell. But even with all of these, he still hasn't become a peak-level martial artist. On the other hand, Kim narrates his own journey. He tells Seo that the cultivators have noticed him. 2 of them even tried to ambush him, but he managed to escape, and in the process he left a mark on one of their cheeks. Kim is disappointed that he can't defeat a cultivator. He comes to the conclusion that the 5 energies converging to the origin technique may be the last limit that a martial artist can aim for. Kim is now at a crossroads, and he believes that no matter how strong a martial artist is, he can never defeat a cultivator. With Kim's problems, Seo realizes that they are both suffering from the same problem. While they are polar opposites, Seo is trying to reach the rank of a peak martial artist while Kim wants to defeat a cultivator, but both seem to be like impossible missions. Kim then suggests that they engage in a duel so he can try to ascertain what is holding Seo back. Seo agrees to the duel, but as always, Kim easily takes him down. Kim and Seo are both frustrated as to why Seo cannot just become a peak martial artist. Seo says even without talent, he should have reached the level of a peak martial artist. Kim then mentions that Seo probably lacks a catalyst. Seo wonders what a catalyst is, and Kim explains that Seo probably lacks a drive or strong emotion to push toward his goal. However, this only makes Seo mad. When it comes to drive, he can be said to have the biggest drive of all. He has done nothing but wield the sword for 50 years without holding back. In frustration and pain, Seo talks about how he has reached the point where he is processing and memorizing every bit of information. Seo wonders why his efforts are not getting him the results he needs. He is forced to repeatedly ask why, making it seem like he is causing the heavens. Kim pities his friend's situation, and before leaving he carves another martial technique into the tree. He tells Seo to practice the new technique and hopes that things get better for him. Seo continues practicing the new technique, and 5 years later, Seo has gotten very old. It is now 50 years since his last regression, and he knows that there are just a few days left for him. He stands outside the house, talking about his bad talent and also the fact that he hasn't seen Kim in years. He talks about how he and his friend can't seem to escape the fate that has been assigned to them. While talking loudly to himself, Kim appears behind him, asking him what nonsense he is spewing. Seo turns around to see Kim, totally battered, and he is also missing his 2 arms. Seo wants to rush inside to get his medical tools, but suddenly he sees himself flying in the sky. Seo has been grabbed by Kim, who doesn't even have arms again. Kim reveals that he is being chased by a cultivator, and this is because he finally relieved a cultivator of his arm. Kim laughs like a maniac while talking about how he has made a cultivator suffer meaningful damage. He has managed to surpass the stage that is said to be the end of martial arts, and this leaves Seo in utter disbelief. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.